Well, howdy ho, folks. Welcome back. Open Pagan Church. Loving the music, loving the music. Yep. All right. Well, how we doing this morning? Hope everybody's doing well. Open Pagan Church. Well, you don't have to be pagan to join us. Um, you really don't have to believe in anything to join us. Sit in, listen, um, put in your 2 cents, maybe three. If you're watching on YouTube, we appreciate the likes, the comments. If you're watching on Facebook or any other archives that we use, by all means, put in your um, put in your 2 cents or three, however you may put it. So, Open Pagan Church here. We're going to talk today about depression in religion, and my screen seems to be a little big. I think. Well, there we go. See if that makes it any better. All right, hope everybody can hear me well. Had to reboot the computer this morning and reboot a couple of the servers. Everybody received updates last night. Updates always scare the hell out of an IT tech. You never know what's going to come across the pike. So, thank everybody for joining us this morning. Today we're going to be talking about depression in religion. And it happens in every religion. Um, all over the planet, you get depression in religion when you put too much expectation in that religion. Multitasking this morning, that's always good. Feeding the snakes. Feeding the snakes is relatively a one drop job, isn't it? No pun intended. Drop it in, snake does the rest. Yep. So, good morning to those watching in North America, and good afternoon to those watching in the UK and other countries. Good evening to some who may be watching it way other countries a little later. So, let's talk about what depression in religion is. And I did put a link from one of my more favorite sites in the description area. You can go through and check it out. Um, Snakes have special needs. Got it. Great. I don't necessarily agree with their analogy of spirituality and religion. In my perception, religion is the political aspect of the name in which you follow paganism, Christianity, uh, Muslim, Jewish, whatever. And then the spirituality of that religion is the actual following, the living what you say, the talk, so to speak. If one of my biggest pet peeves has always been those that sit back and love to give lip service, and that's about it. I have always tried to be who I say I am and have the congruency of my words matched in my actions. Well, I'm only human. Sometimes that doesn't always play. Hang on to what you got, folks. I'm going to turn up my gain just a little bit here. My voice is a little raspy this morning. I do apologize That time of year, sinuses, allergies, bleh. So, expectations, unrealistic expectations in any religion that you follow, builds depression, it builds anxieties, it builds and reaffirms trust issues for one. Um, Simply put, when I was involved in the Christian church many years ago, hell, I was on the choir, I was altar boy, I was a deacon in the church, I was considered one of the elders in the church at 30 years old. No, 25, sorry. And I quickly became disillusioned as I progressed my way up in the church. I mean, I always knew that they were a little bit on the iffy side as far as congruency goes, practicing their talk, as it were. I found it amazing how um, many of the parishioners, not just in the church I attended, but in other churches in the area in which we lived, found it absolutely amazingly simple to Friday and Saturday night get completely tossed, shit faced drunk, go out, party, get into a fight, beat the hell out of somebody, end up going home with the neighbor's wife or whatever. And that would be all perfectly fine and good if they didn't preach down on it the very next day, or they would condemn others for doing the same thing. And that began to form, in me anyway, a bit of a depression because my expectations of the church at the time were more than that. I expected more out of these people. I don't know what I expected, but I did expect more. Well, as time went on and I learned more about my core beliefs and who and what I am and who and what I was then, I found that the overall depression that people experience today and they're disillusioned with their own religion is caused by the overzealous expectations of that very group or church or religion that they're involved in. Excuse me. Now, that being said, who, and this one's probably going to piss a few people off, but I do not care. Whose fault is it that I, you, others, anyone, becomes disillusioned with their own religion? Whose fault is it that I became depressed, lost, confused, questioning of the faith, if you will? Is it their fault? Mm, they're just doing what they do. They're just being who they are. They're following the actions of everyone else that's in the same group that they are. And I want to remove this away from Christianity. Okay? Let's move into some of the Middle Eastern countries where even today in 2018, women are stoned for speaking out against men. And I'm not talking about the good kind of stoned with a little 420. I'm talking about actual stones where they're put up against a wall and stoned to death by men of the country because it is their religion. I'm talking about um, Oriental countries where women are still deemed to be lesser beings than men. Um, I'm even talking about in America, where if you're not a um, white Anglo Saxon American, then you're considered a lesser being. And all this does is builds and rebuilds and expands on the disillusion and the depression within the different religions of the world, because people are quite simply sick and tired of being repressed, bullied, and abused. And what this eventually does is it can cause some people to go into a spiral down to the point where they just really truly don't believe in anything. I know that I would say a good half of all of the agnostics and a good half of all of the um, hell, I had a brain fart. Atheist, where they're coming from, because they became so disillusioned with the environment in which they were, well, which they were raised, the society environment in which they live in on a daily basis. They are disillusioned with the things that have caused the religious depression to begin with. Now, in all reality, and I have to say this, in all reality, paganism is not any different. I know back in '08, when we had a lot of our issues, I was absolutely amazed at how many people went completely batshit crazy over the choices of myself and a few others. Everything imploded. They went from supposed open-minded pagans to judgmental fundamentalist individuals. And I blame that on society overall. And says I don't think it's anyone's fault. No, I agree. It's not any one's fault. It's not any one person's fault. However, the Christian church that I was involved in, I found it more to be my own fault for putting my expectations higher. Excuse me. Putting my expectations higher than what these people were capable of living. And I did it again in the pagan, the open pagan church that we had, House of Pagans, that we had back in '08. I found myself highly disillusioned and went through several months of a depressionary phase when everything imploded on itself because people were simply doing what people do, and that is judging others on their actions without looking at themselves and being able to judge for themselves. Now, why shouldn't we have expectations for our leaders? You're absolutely correct. That is $1 million question. I know that as a leader of a small group at work, as a team lead, my employees have expectations of me to be straight up and do what I say I'm going to do and be fair to work with. I know as a pagan minister, individuals have expectations of me to do what I say I'm going to do and walk the talk, so to speak. However, and this is a good point that I do want to make right now after vape. The good point that I want to make right this minute, expectations of leaders is a good thing. It really is. But when we put leaders when we put leaders in a God role, when we put leaders in a God or goddess role, and we put them on a pedestal, right? We put them on a pedestal, high, far, and above anyone else. Are we not? Are we not opening ourselves up for the very hurt that we try so hard to get away from? I am a believer in holding our leaders accountable. I am a believer in holding our leaders accountable for the things that they do, like presidents, um, any leader of any country, any leader of any church, I think should be held accountable. But I think the judgmentality of that should be tempered with a bit of an understanding and looking at it from all sides. And this kind of brings me to another point. When we're looking at depression in religion, and um, we're looking at honor, um, yeah, honor may not always mean what others think it means. Honor may not mean what the hell. Ladies and gentlemen, I believe we have an issue. Okay, I don't know if I'm still streaming or not. Alright, folks, hang in there. I don't know if I'm still streaming or not. Facebook just went completely BSC. Okay. Okay, everybody's sending me IMs telling me I'm still streaming. Alright, hang in there. Let me get back in there because I can't see y'all's post. Ay, ay, ay. Facebook and their psycho crap. Alright, hang in there. Video page. Videos. Comments. Alright. I think I can see y'all's post now. I apologize for the interruption. Facebook went stupid and closed my live feed where I could see what you guys were saying and what was going on, and I thought it had ended the live broadcast. Well, all right. Maybe it did, maybe it didn't. So, if you guys are chatting, as I hope you are, I can't see what you're saying. Anyway, onward and upward. Yes, well. Ah, hell. All right, somebody post a couple of chats here and let's see. All right, anyway, I can't tell what the hell's going on, so we're going to continue on. Anyway, depression in religion really does cause some, um, is caused by, anyway, is caused by over expectations of what to expect from the religion and from the leaders within that religion. And that can really come down to a lot of overall issues when people are trying to just learn what it is they're about anyway. They're trying to just figure out what it is that's going on and what it is that they're trying to do to learn who they are. And yes, if you haven't noticed, I'm trying to get so that I can see. Ha 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 ha. All right. Ha ha. I got it back. Okay. Um. God. Things you have to go through now just to be able to do a live video. Anyway, when you're talking about that expectation, and I think where I kind of wanted to go with this is we all have expectations of others. It's a natural human thing. As much as I try, um, Clint says mine's still auto scrolling. I think mine actually just started auto scrolling. So there. But anyway, don't derail me. I've already been derailed by technical issues this morning. Expectations can be the downfall. Now, I agree. All right? I agree. We do have expectations of people. We have expectations of them to be who they say they are. We have expectations of them to do what they say they're going to do. But over the years, I have worked really hard to have hope, but minimal expectations. I hope people are going to do what they say they're going to do. I hope people are going to watch our videos, to join us here for good chat and good conversation. But to me, and I will say this before somebody takes my head off, to me, in my perception, expectations open yourself up to expect people to do things that can hurt you when they don't. Having hope that they would do what they say they're going to do, that's okay in my book. But I spent many years getting over the hurt and the depression of the expectations that I had of the church that I was a member of in my youth, in my um, later teens and early to mid 20s. I had a lot of trouble getting past the expectations of what a church leader should be like. And when I got the brilliant idea to start what was then the House of Pegasus, which later became the House of Pagans, which later became um, the House of, let's see, Hopes, HOPESC, um, House of Pagans Eclectic Spiritualist Church. Boy, that's a mouthful. Um, I had expectations then of not only myself, but the parishioners that came and joined. I had expectations of them being true to their words. I became depressed and distraught, just as I've seen a number of you that watch these videos that I've known for many years. I have seen you become disillusioned and mildly depressed over things that happen and don't happen that you think should happen within your spiritual following, within your spiritual leaders. So, how we are about 30 minutes into the hour, how can we curve? How can we um, how can we curve the religious depression, the depression in religion? How can we curve that? Excuse me just a second. How can we, um, as in individually, not the church, okay, not the leaders of the church, but how can we, as members of those groups, better curb our own expectationary religious depression within that? What are some of your ideas on how we can do that as people? Clint says he has expectations of himself already in his new job. Well, see, you have to watch that too, because overly expecting yourself to be able to do the things that you can't really do anymore may possibly come back to bite you in the butt. So what are some of the things that you guys think you might could do to help with depression in religion? And it really actually all comes down to this, gang. Think about this. If if I walk into a group, right, and I have preconceived expectations of that group, either because of their reputation or because of the way I see people are dressed. I see this happen all the time. Or because of the way I see people talking to each other. If I have preconceived expectations of these individuals in this group, how am I going to be open minded enough to sit and listen, interact, communicate, and learn what these people are about? If I go in to a circle a group of people, a party, right? A gathering. If I go in with a chip on my shoulder and just put it out there expecting someone to knock that chip off, somebody's going to do it because my attitude and my energy is going to reflect that. So, what am I doing? I'm setting myself up to get hurt. I'm setting myself up to experience that depression in religion because I am setting preconceived expectations of some people, somebody, a circle, a group. I'm setting expectations before I know anything about them. Well, um, Debbie says walk away from the human side of religion and interact direct with your gods, guides, spirits, etc. Yes, and no. And I get it. I do. Solitaires and people who don't like groups of people, I think we had almost two conversations and videos about people that don't like groups of people. But me, I like groups of people for the most part. I like to be able to sit down and interact and have conversations and philosophical, ideological conversations with individuals. But the one thing that I think has reinforced depression in religion is the overall attitude of some people within the group or organization or religion or whatever. Is some people within that religion that get the I know better than anybody else attitude. Nobody else is right. Nobody else has any specific bearing or ideas or anything else. Um, I'm the only one. And when you get that attitude, you start to repress other people's thoughts. You start to repress other people's ideas. And you begin to stop listening to the very people that have made you who you are. Now, I've had that happen. I've seen it happen. And Clint says, the I know syndrome. Yeah, the I know syndrome. Every time you're talking to someone, and I love this, I've got some people like this at work. When you're talking to them, um, you're saying, well, I've seen this and this and this. The only thing they're telling you is, I know, I know, I know, I know, I know, I know, I know. That becomes aggravating quickly. So it seems to me like, as a people, right? Not just me, but those of you that are watching the live feed and those of you that will watch the pre recorded broadcast later. Take the I know, right? Like Clint said, the I know syndrome, and put it on the shelf for a minute. Just like I'm doing with my hand. Put it out of the screen for a minute and sit it on the shelf. And bring down the listen syndrome, the I will listen syndrome. One of the ways that I found that I curbed my depression in religion is to release some of the expectations of people to be something that they're not. Okay? Now listen to me all the way through this before you take me off at the shoulders. Release some of the expectations of the individuals or the leaders of the organization to be something that they're not. That's one. Two, shut up and listen. And shut my head down and listen to what they're saying. Let let what they're saying sink in and open my mind enough to go, all right, I can see that. Showing respect when I'm talking to someone, irregardless whether or not I think they've fallen completely off of their trolley and their ideas are crap, irregardless of whether or not I think they're talking out their backside because their front side knows better. If someone has engaged me in conversation, or if I have engaged someone in conversation, I owe them the respect to listen. Don't confuse listening with agreeing. Don't confuse the fact that I am listening to what you're saying with that I may be agreeing or disagreeing with what you're saying. Herein lies putting, over accentuating expectations of the position of the individual in which you're talking to or listening to. If I walk up to a leader of a circle and I introduce myself, I shake their hand or hug or whatever they do, and we start talking and we start exchanging ideas and philosophies. If I expect that individual to agree with me on everything I have to say, do I not have over expectation? Am I not setting myself up for disillusion and possible depression, anger, anxieties, and everything else while sitting and talking to this individual because of my expectations of them to agree with me? You're setting yourself up to get hurt. However, if you sit and you listen with an open mind, you don't want to spend your entire time sitting there thinking, well, I disagree with that. Well, that's bullshit. Well, he didn't know what he or she doesn't know what they're talking about. Well, they're just full of crap. Blah, 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 blah. Well, you're missing 90% of the conversation that the individual might be having. Well, my backlight's playing hell. Well, that's not any better. That's damn sure not any better. That's a little better. All right. Technical issues. So let's think about something, if you will. If we become overzealous with our expectations of our leaders, and let's change that just a little bit because I sound like I'm on a rant for expectations, and I'm really not. But it comes down to, um, in my interpretation and my experience anyway, it comes down to people becoming afraid when their reality, their philosophies and ideas, and the things that they always thought to be true, they tend to get a little bit overprotective when those things are questioned. When those things are brought into question, and maybe somebody is giving them a piece of information that may cause these things to be questioned. Debbie's going to play devil's advocate. See what we got. Directly ask? No. Um, do I think we should walk in and immediately start questioning that particular religious leader? No. I mean, we can ask questions without just getting in their face and going, well, how do you feel about this? Well, how do you feel about that? Well, I think you're wrong about this. Well, what do you feel about this, that, and the other thing? Well, no, no. We really don't need to do that, I don't think, because what I've always done is I go in, I sit, and I listen. And I really listen. I open my head to what they're saying, and then I look at the different variables, not only the words they're using, but how they're coming across. I listen to what their moral standpoints might be. Um, I think that if we, well, all right, if they say one thing and they do another, then that also goes back to the congruency or the incongruency of the leader, the religious leader, persons, group, grove, whatever, um, which would lead me to believe that's not a group I want to be involved in. So, after talking to the individual and watching them and watching the parishioners and watching how they act, I may not see anything right off, right? I may not see anything right off the bat. I may feel something is off, but I'm a weird individual. I'm out to go back just to see if they were having a bad day. Now, when we talk about morals, I'm going to light this fuse. I'm going to light this fuse and I'm going to watch people just go probably all over my head. But does our own morality not affect the way we perceive depression in religion? And I'll word that a little differently. Morality is as individual and as important to individuals as love, religion, belief, sexualities, sexologies, and the different forms and the beliefs and what have you that we may have. We all, myself included, as much as I try not to, we all judge the world on our own moralities. Now, I can tell you that at 56 years old, from the time I was in the Christian church, my moralities have changed to today. A lot of my moralities have changed as to what my interpretation of my morals were 10, 20 years ago. Morals do change. And if you don't know what morality or a moral truly is, look it up. And the interesting part of it is every website that you look at that describes morals will be a little bit different. The word morality has as many different ideologies and interpretations and descriptions as the word love does, as the word honor does. I have always believed that honor is not something that anyone can give you or take away. Honor is within yourself. Morals are the same way. Morality is not anything anybody can force you to live by, although governments try, churches try. This one doesn't. Open Pagan Church is not going to force you to live by my morals. Okay? Basically said the same thing. It's a code of conduct each person decides upon or has been imposed upon them. Now, that last section, that is the easiest thing to change, or it was for me anyway. Because when I decided to make the changes of the morals that were being imposed on me by society outside, by my living conditions at the time, and by the individuals that I was involved with at the time, once I made the decision to change their imposed morals on me, I decided, piss off. I don't like your morals. I'm going to farm my own. So I did. And it really whizzed a lot of people completely off. But that is one of the ways that I started climbing out of my depression in my religion. Because I had become so disillusioned with people, the things people were doing, the things they weren't doing, they said they would do, and the things that were going on that in my philosophy and in my idea really shouldn't have been happening. Now comes the $1,000,000 question. Ready? Coffee. Nom, 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 nom. All right. $1,000,000 question. Who sets society's morals? Who sets society's morals? That is as loaded a question as who tells whom who they can love and who they cannot. If you missed that, go back, rewind, and replay after the broadcast. But seriously, who sets society's morality? I can tell you with the status quo here in 2018, depending on where you're at on the globe, right? Every government of every country on every landmass of the globe, the government attempts to impose and enforce morality. If you don't believe me, look it up. The church tries to, on a daily basis, browbeat, hammerbeat, and scare the masses into doing what they say their morality should be, and even certain morals, now follow me here, even certain morals will change from Christian church to Christian church to Christian church to Christian church. Some of the base moralities are different. And the same goes in pagan circles. Now, I'm not talking about Wicca, I'm not talking about witchcraft, I'm not talking about shamanism or Druid or Fae or Asatru or anything else. I am talking about pagan morality, the base core philosophy in which pagans makes pagans pagans. the polytheistic belief of the possibility and our existence of multiple gods and our goddesses, right? I'm not talking about you slapping me upside the face with your morals. I'm not talking about how you personally believe whether or not swinging is a bad thing, homosexuality is a bad thing. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about your morality itself. Um, Whoever's posting under Open Pagan Church, change to your name, please. I don't want people thinking that individualistic ideas are coming from Open Pagan Church. So when you're looking at morality and you're looking at expectations and you're looking at um, philosophies and ideologies and whether or not you think they're right or wrong, when we put ourselves in a position to be repressed, discriminated against, um, we get repressed within a situation where the leader of the organization wants to make everybody feel bad about themselves to make themselves feel better about themselves so that they have control over everyone else. This does increase depression in religion, and that's what the whole topic is about, as you can tell. And I will say this: we could debate for hours on what's right and what's wrong. We could debate for hours my interpretation versus your interpretation versus someone else's interpretation of what makes people depressed. When I come at these, I come at them with my experience and I want to see y'all's. I come at them with my interpretation of the ideas of things I've seen happen and I want to see y'all's. That's the purpose for making it an open church. If I just wanted to broadcast Don's ideas and I just wanted to broadcast my philosophy, I wouldn't do live broadcast. I would do weekly recordings of what I think and just upload them into hell with what you think. But I want to know what you think. I want to know how you feel. I may not agree. That's okay. I'm allowed not to agree, and you're allowed not to agree, and we're all allowed to not to agree. But that's what keeps depression in religion down in the HOP. It's what keeps Open Pagan Church upbeat because it's not just about me. All I am is a sounding board, somebody with an idea. But it's about you. It's about your ideas, your interpretations, your philosophies. I try very hard to keep it open, keep it light, and be sure that any posts that are done in the chat does respect others. So I'm waiting on the bandwidth to pick up a little bit. Ah, there it goes. All right. So what do we what do we think? Right? I ask a question at the beginning of the broadcast. Whose fault is it that whose fault is it that I became so depressed in my earlier years, not just as a parishioner in the Christian church, but as a leader in the pagan community. Now, this is my interpretation, folks, my interpretation. Who, whose fault is it that I became so depressed and enamored with the religion overall? It's my fault. To me, it was my fault. I put too much expectation in the religious leaders that were around me at the time. I put too many expectations on the people to do what they say they were going to do. And as I studied more and became more educated and a little more wiser, I think, I learned the difference between hope and expectation. I'll say that again. I learned the difference between hope and expectation. When you have expectations, you expect people to be better than they are. You expect people to do more than they may possibly can do. Every individual has different um, have different ranks in which they can go. They have different capabilities within certain expectations of themselves. Hope, on the other hand, is something that if we lose, we're in trouble. If we lose hope, if we lose hope in jobs, in our religious leaders, if we lose hope in ourselves and we lose hope in the ability to do the things that we say we're going to do, then we fall deeper and deeper and deeper into that depression. Hope, to me, is more important than expectations. Hope, to me, is more important than expectations, because with hope, I don't set myself up to get hurt. With expectations, then I have those expectations of people to do what they say they're going to do. I put energy with it, I put emotion with it, I put feelings with it, and when they don't, it hurts. But if I have hope that people are going to do what they say they're going to do, then I find myself getting less hurt, less time, with less emotion. So it's just a thought. I've always said, change the way we react to people's actions. Change the way we react to other people's words. And we will change over time their actions and their words. I do want to thank you for watching another Open Pagan Church. We hope to see you next week right here. And if you're watching on YouTube, if you don't like it, click don't like. But put why. Don't just say I think you're full of crap. Tell me why. I may well be full of crap. Tell me why. I look forward to your comments. Subscribe. If you're on our Facebook page, click like. If you're on our YouTube page, click subscribe. We'll see you next time here on Open Pagan Church with another mind-provoking topic. And we will catch you later.